A single stone block can outweigh 10 modern tanks. These are megalithic structures, and they hold secrets that defy our current understanding of history. By the end of this, you will see 30 examples of ancient engineering that our modern technology still cannot replicate. How did cultures across the globe move mountains of stone without basic machines? And what forgotten knowledge allowed them to carve with laser-like precision? What does it say about us that the past remains so stubbornly out of reach? Its silhouette against the desert sky is an icon of human ambition. But the Great Pyramid of Giza is far more than a static monument. It was a machine of precision, its sides aligned with the cardinal directions to an accuracy within a fraction of a single degree. This was not just architecture, it was applied astronomy carved in stone. Built from over 2.3 million limestone blocks, the pyramid's construction is a riddle wrapped in a mystery. Each block, some weighing as much as 80 tons, was fitted to its neighbor with a joint so seamless that not even the thinnest razor blade can be inserted between them. This is a level of craftsmanship we struggle to achieve even with diamond-tipped saws and computer-guided machinery. The mystery deepens inside the structure, within the king's chamber. Here, the ceiling is formed by 9 colossal granite beams, each one an astonishing weight. These stones were not sourced locally. They were quarried from a site over 500 miles to the south, a distance that presents an almost incomprehensible logistical nightmare. How do you transport multi-ton blocks of granite across such a vast, arid landscape, and then lift them precisely into place, over 150 feet above the pyramid's base, to form a perfect stress-relieving chamber? Modern engineers are left without a definitive answer. Some researchers, like engineer Christopher Dunn, look beyond the tomb theory altogether. They point to the pyramid's unique construction, its choice of materials, and its internal passages, proposing it may have functioned as a giant energy machine, a device for harnessing and focusing subtle forces from the earth itself. Whether it was a tomb, a power plant, or something else entirely, the foundational question remains: how was this done? The absence of the wheel, of iron tools, of any technology we recognize as necessary for such a task, forces us to confront a humbling possibility. The builders of Giza possessed a mastery, a suite of techniques that has since vanished from history. This single structure forms the bedrock of our entire exploration, a silent stone question mark that echoes across the millennia. 800 tons is a weight that silences modern machinery. That is the estimated mass of each of the 3 colossal blocks known as the Trilithon, forming the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek in modern-day Lebanon. To visualize that, picture a fully loaded jumbo jet, then imagine carving its equivalent out of solid limestone and lifting it onto a 20-foot-high platform. This is the scale of the impossible that greets us here, but the Trilithon is not even the largest stone at the site. In a nearby quarry lies the stone of the pregnant woman, a single, unfinished block that tips the scales at an almost incomprehensible 1,650 tons. It is a monument to ambition that was never moved, a sleeping giant that makes our modern cranes seem like toys. The official narrative attributes the temple complex to the Romans, yet the engineering of these foundational stones predates them, belonging to a mysterious, far older culture whose name is lost to time. The puzzle is not just the weight, but the movement. How do you transport a 1,000-ton block from a quarry over half a mile away, navigate uneven terrain, and then hoist it with perfect alignment into a wall, all without leaving behind any evidence of the massive ramps, pulleys, or levers such an endeavor would require? The joints between these behemoths are so precise that, much like at Giza, they reject even the thinnest blade. This precision at such a scale defies the clumsy tools of the Roman era we have on record. The gap in understanding is so vast it has given rise to enduring folklore and more speculative theories. Some researchers point to ancient texts and traditions from the region that speak of sound, of words or tones that could make stone weightless, a concept we might loosely term acoustic levitation. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this as myth, the very existence of these theories underscores a profound truth. When conventional explanations fall so dramatically short, the human mind instinctively reaches for the extraordinary. Baalbek is not merely a ruin, it is a direct challenge. It confronts the limits of our historical timeline and dares us to ask what profound knowledge of physics, of material science, of the very earth itself has been forgotten. It stands as a second, thunderous data point in our growing collection of ancient anomalies. From the thunderous scale of Baalbek, we journey now to the breathtaking heights of the Andes, where a different kind of genius is carved into the mountainside. Sacsayhuamán is a fortress of impossible geometry. Its walls are a masterclass in stone, not for the size of individual blocks, though many weigh over 100 tons, but for the bewildering way they are joined. Each stone is a unique, irregular polygon, with as many as 12 distinct sides, yet they fit against their neighbors with a seam so flawless it feels liquid. The joints are so tight that for centuries, locals and explorers alike have said not even a single sheet of paper can be slipped between them. This is not simple stacking. This is a three-dimensional stone puzzle of staggering complexity, assembled without a single drop of mortar. The question is not just how they cut these stones, but how they achieved such a perfect, custom fit for every single one. The official narrative credits the Inca, and while they certainly occupied the site, their own oral histories hint at a deeper mystery. They spoke of a time before them, of a master builder who knew a secret. According to legend, a specific plant juice could soften stone, allowing workers to mold the granite like clay before it hardened back into its eternal form. Modern science has searched for such a plant, testing various acids and compounds, but has yet to find a botanical agent capable of such a feat on Andean granite. Whether the legend holds a kernel of chemical truth or is a metaphorical explanation for a lost technique, it points to a profound gap in our understanding. The genius of Sacsayhuamán, however, goes beyond mere aesthetics. This intricate, interlocking design is a work of seismic genius. Peru sits on one of the most active earthquake zones on the planet, and Cusco has been shaken countless times. Yet these walls have not simply stood, they have danced. During tremors, the polygonal stones shift and settle against each other, absorbing and dispersing the energy, then locking back into place as the earth grows still. It is a dynamic, living architecture that understands geology on an intuitive level, an earthquake-resistant technology we are only now fully appreciating with modern engineering. This represents a pivotal shift in our exploration. Here, the ancient mystery is not raw power but profound intelligence, a transition from moving mountains to conversing with them. It is a precision so advanced it feels less like construction and more like a form of stone whispering, a theme that finds a startling echo thousands of miles away across the Pacific Ocean. The seamless stonework of the Andes finds a bizarre and lonely echo in the swamplands of 20th century Florida. Here stands the Coral Castle, a sprawling complex of massive, sculpted coral blocks, the heaviest weighing 30 tons. Its creator was a single man, Edward Lidskalnin, a Latvian immigrant who stood just 5 feet tall and weighed barely 100 pounds. Working entirely alone, mostly under the cover of darkness over nearly 3 decades, he quarried, shaped, and positioned over 1,100 tons of oolite limestone. Neighbors reported seeing the massive stones seemingly floating through the air, moving as if they were weightless balloons. Lidskalnin himself offered only cryptic clues, claiming he had rediscovered the building secrets of the ancient Egyptians, that he understood the laws of weight and leverage that they used to levitate stone. He spoke of understanding the cosmic forces of magnetism and the patterns of celestial bodies. When pressed for details, he would simply smile and say he knew how the pyramids were built. The methods he actually used died with him in 1951. This is not an ancient enigma, it is a modern one, captured in blurry photographs and first-hand accounts from an era of cars and radios. The proximity in time makes the mystery all the more frustrating. Investigators have proposed conventional explanations, suggesting he used a system of block and tackle, tripods, and clever counterweights made from old car parts. Yet even skilled engineers who have tried to replicate his feats with the proposed tools admit the sheer speed and silence of his work, often accomplished in a single night, defies simple mechanics. The Coral Castle forces a profound and unsettling realization. Lost knowledge is not a relic locked in the distant past. It can vanish within living memory, a secret held in the mind of one individual. This site shatters the comfortable assumption that technological progress is a straight, unbroken line. It proves that a person working outside established institutions could harness a principle or technique so effective it appears to border on magic and then choose to let it vanish. If such a thing was possible a mere century ago, it reframes every ancient mystery we have encountered. It suggests the builders of Sacsayhuamán or Baalbek may not have required a vast, advanced civilization, but perhaps a small group or even a single visionary who possessed a key piece of forgotten physics. The castle stands as a haunting monument to individual genius, a concrete poem written in coral that asks us how much we might still have to learn or relearn about the simple act of moving stone. Beneath the turquoise waves off the coast of Japan lies a mystery that blurs the line between geology and architecture. The Yonaguni Monument is a colossal, terraced structure rising from the seafloor, its stark, flat plains and sharp, 90-degree angles forming what looks unmistakably like a stepped pyramid. Divers navigate what appear to be wide staircases, straight corridors, and even a platform that resembles an altar. The sheer scale and geometric precision feel intentional, as if a giant hand carved a temple complex directly from the bedrock. Yet the ocean holds its secrets close, and the debate over this site is a fundamental clash of perspectives. Mainstream geologists point to the region's unique sandstone, which can fracture along natural plains, creating surprisingly regular shapes through the relentless forces of tidal currents and erosion. They see a stunning but entirely natural formation. Other researchers, however, document features that defy simple geology. They point to what look like clear tool marks on the stone, to perfectly circular holes that seem drilled, and to the presence of what could be a carved relief resembling an animal or a deity. If even a fraction of these features were made by human hands, the implications are seismic. To have worked on this structure, the builders would have needed to do so when it was above water. That places its construction during the last ice age, when global sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. We are talking about a potential origin of over 10,000 years ago, a timeline that pushes back against the conventional dawn of civilization. This is not merely an old building, it is a potential artifact from a chapter of human history we have not yet written, a chapter that may have ended when the glaciers melted and the seas rose. The Yonaguni Monument forces us to expand our search for the megalithic builders from mountaintops and deserts to the vast, silent archives of the ocean floor. It whispers a haunting possibility that the most profound evidence of our past may not be lost, but simply submerged, waiting for us to look deeper and question the very linear story of our own progress. The stones of Puma Punku do not whisper of ancient effort, they scream of impossible precision. Scattered across the windswept Bolivian Altiplano, these ruins are not a building, but a catalogue of geometric perfection, a collection of components that look less like architecture and more like the disassembled parts of a colossal stone machine. The most iconic are the H-shaped blocks, massive andesite slabs weighing over 100 tons each, carved with a series of complex, interlocking notches and grooves. These are not rough chisel marks. The cuts are perfectly straight with crisp 90-degree interior corners that show no sign of tool slippage or wear. The surfaces of the stone are so unnaturally smooth they could serve as mirrors, polished to a degree that seems to defy the copper and stone tools attributed to the Tiwanaku culture who are said to have built this place. But the true mystery is in the microscopic details. Across many blocks you find identical, shallow grooves, perfectly parallel and spaced with a consistency that suggests the use of a guide, perhaps a template or a mechanical apparatus. There are also precisely drilled holes, some perfectly cylindrical, others with a slight taper, that appear in hard stone as if made by a modern drill press. The uniformity is startling. It suggests a standardized process, a repeatable method of fabrication that feels industrial. This is not the work of artisans slowly coaxing shape from rock. It is the work of technicians following a precise design, a concept that feels utterly revolutionary for a site dated to over 1,000 years ago. The official explanation faces a twofold challenge that stretches it to the breaking point. First, the transportation. The andesite stone was quarried from a site over 50 miles away, across mountainous terrain at an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet. Moving 100-ton blocks across such a distance without the wheel or draft animals suited to the altitude is a logistical puzzle on par with Baalbek. Second, and more damning, is the fabrication itself. How do you achieve such flawless, machine-like surfaces and cuts using only stone hammers and copper chisels, tools that would shatter against this volcanic rock? Modern engineers note that to replicate this work today, you would likely need diamond-tipped saws and computer-controlled milling machines to ensure such consistency. The site, therefore, feels less like a temple and more like an ancient factory floor. The blocks appear prefabricated, designed to slot together with other components we may never find. This leads to a profound and unsettling line of thought. Could Puma Punku represent evidence of a standardized, almost industrialized process in prehistory? The idea shatters our image of ancient construction as purely manual, guild-based labor. It suggests a level of planning, specialization, and tool technology that we have not credited to these cultures. Were these stones part of a larger assembly, a grand design that was never completed or was later dismantled by time and cataclysm? Standing before these scattered, perfect components, one is left with the eerie sensation of looking at the pieces of a watch, understanding that each is meticulously made, but having lost all knowledge of how they were meant to fit together to tell time. The scattered perfection of Puma Punku feels sterile, a puzzle of pure geometry, but on a remote island in the vast Pacific, the stone giants are infused with soul. Easter Island's Moai are not just heads, they are full-bodied figures, some standing over 30 feet tall and weighing as much as 82 tons, each one gazing inland with a solemn, eternal watchfulness. Carved from the soft volcanic tuff of the Rono-Raraku quarry using only stone hand tools called toki, their creation is a testament to patience and communal effort. Yet the greater mystery lies not in their making, but in their journey. How did a society with no metal, no wheels, and no large animals move these multi-ton colossus up to 11 miles across rugged terrain to their final coastal platforms, known as Ahu? Modern experiments have attempted to solve this, most famously by demonstrating how teams using a careful, coordinated system of ropes could, in theory, rock a statue forward in a walking motion. While this shows a possible method, the sheer scale of the operation, involving hundreds of statues over generations, and the immense risk of catastrophic damage with a single misstep, leaves many wondering if a more refined, perhaps even more elegant technique has been lost to time. Oral traditions of the Rapa Nui people speak of the statues moving by mana, a spiritual power guided by their ancestors. This is where the engineering challenge transcends mere mechanics. Each moai was not a simple monument, it was a sacred vessel, an ancestral guardian carved to watch over the living community. The driving force behind this staggering endeavor was not just technical capability, but profound belief. The spiritual imperative to honor and connect with those who came before provided the collective will to achieve what seems, from our distant perspective, nearly impossible. This powerful fusion of culture and engineering, of belief made manifest in stone, shifts our focus from how things were moved to why they were placed with such intention. It prepares us to encounter structures where the purpose was not merely to reach for the sky, but to map the very heavens themselves. The solemn gaze of the moai was fixed upon their community, but on the windswept Salisbury plain, ancient eyes were turned upward. Stonehenge is a ring of giants, its largest sarsen stone standing 30 feet tall and weighing 25 tons, each one dragged from quarries over 20 miles distant. This journey alone is a monumental feat for a Neolithic society, but the true genius of this place is not in its transport, but in its intention. This was not a haphazard circle. The arrangement of these massive blocks forms a sophisticated astronomical observatory, its alignments pinpointing the summer and winter solstices with a precision that speaks of generations of careful observation. The builders understood the slow dance of the sun and moon, capable of predicting eclipses and marking the turning points of the year with stone. Yet, how they achieved this precision with only stone mauls and antler picks to shape the rock is a puzzle that continues to fuel debate. The mystery deepens with the discovery of a vast ritual landscape surrounding the main circle. Stonehenge was not an isolated monument, but the heart of a complex network of processional avenues, burial mounds, and other timber and stone circles. This implies a level of social organization, shared purpose, and technical coordination across a wide region that we are only beginning to comprehend. Perhaps the most telling clue to their sophistication is hidden in the architecture itself. Look up at the massive lintels that crown the towering trilithons. Where they meet the upright stones, you will find something astonishing for its time, a simple yet brilliant solution, tongue and groove joints. This is a woodworking technique perfected for joining timber, here applied with flawless execution to monolithic stone. It reveals a culture of innovative problem solvers, adept at transferring knowledge from one material to another to achieve stability and permanence. Stonehenge is a bridge, a place where earth and sky were physically connected by human hands. It stands as a testament to a drive not just to build, but to understand, to map the cosmos from the ground up, a celestial ambition carved into the very bones of the land. This desire to reach for the heavens, to build in concert with the mountains themselves, finds its most dramatic expression high in the clouds of a different continent. The ambition to build in concert with the mountains finds its ultimate expression not in adding stone, but in the breathtaking act of removal. The Kailasa temple in Ellora, India, is a monument carved from a mountain's refusal. It is not a structure assembled block by block, but a single, colossal piece of architecture excavated vertically downward from the heart of a solid basalt cliff. Picture the process not as construction, but as a meticulous act of revelation, as if the builders saw the temple trapped within the rock and patiently, fearfully, carved away everything that was not it. The scale of this subtractive architecture is almost beyond comprehension. Over 200,000 tons of solid rock were painstakingly removed, not merely to create a cave, but to leave behind a freestanding, multi-story complex complete with a central shrine, intricate pillars, detailed sculptures, and even bridges connecting separate sections. This was a project with zero margin for error. With additive construction, a misplaced block can be adjusted or replaced. Here, every strike of the chisel was permanent. Removing too much stone in one critical area would have doomed the entire decades-long endeavor, collapsing their vision into rubble. The precision achieved under this constant pressure is what defies belief. The surfaces of walls and pillars are flawlessly smooth. The sculptures of deities and mythological scenes are rendered with a delicate artistry that feels more like fine ivory carving than work on volcanic rock. This has led researchers to question whether simple iron chisels and hammers were truly the only tools employed. Some geologists and engineers point to the possibility of a thermal technique, a lost method of controlled fracturing. The theory suggests that sections of the cliff face could have been systematically heated, perhaps with massive fires, and then rapidly cooled with water or another liquid. This sudden thermal shock would cause the rock to crack along predictable planes, allowing large sections to be broken away with far less labor than relentless chiseling, and leaving a smoother surface that required only fine finishing. Whether this method was used remains speculative, but its very proposal highlights the gap between the tools we have on record and the staggering achievement before us. Kailasa represents a philosophical leap. It is architecture as an act of unity with nature, not a conquest over it. The builders did not quarry stone to impose a form upon the landscape. They engaged in a dialogue with the mountain itself, seeing the temple as its true essence waiting to be uncovered. This profound reverence for natural form, this blurring of the line between the crafted and the born, leads us to a place where stone was not carved into shapes, but chosen because it already held them. Across the rolling fields of Brittany, a silent army stands at attention. The aligned menhirs of Carnac are not a single monument, but a sprawling megalithic landscape, a geometric pattern etched directly into the earth itself. Over 3,000 individual standing stones are arranged in long, precise parallel rows that march across the countryside for miles. To walk among them is to feel a profound sense of order imposed upon nature, a grid of granite that speaks of a purpose both immense and utterly mysterious. These stones were raised during the Neolithic period, a time we often imagine as simple, yet here is evidence of a coordination that feels almost modern in its scope. The alignment is too deliberate, too consistent over such vast distances to be accidental. It required a society not just capable of moving multi-ton stones, but one united by a shared vision, a collective project that would have spanned generations. What could possibly justify such a sustained, monumental effort? The theories are as varied as the stones themselves. Some researchers see an astronomical function, a colossal calendar or observatory where the rows mark celestial events. Others propose a more terrestrial purpose, suggesting the lines could have served as a form of seismic detector, their arrangement sensitive to vibrations in the earth. There are even interpretations that view the entire site as a symbolic representation, a physical map of a deity or a cosmic belief system. With no written records left by the builders, these stones offer only silent testimony, their true meaning locked within their granite forms. This mystery shifts our focus from the how to the why, and in doing so, reveals a crucial dimension of these ancient wonders often overshadowed by engineering puzzles, the human element. The logistical feat here is staggering, sourcing, shaping, and erecting thousands of stones across a community. This was not the work of a lone genius or a small priesthood, but of an entire society mobilized around a common goal. It speaks to a level of social cohesion, shared identity, and long-term planning that we struggle to fully comprehend. The menhirs of Carnac are a monument to community itself, a testament to what humans can achieve not through advanced technology, but through unified purpose across centuries. This collective drive to shape the world according to a shared vision finds a different, more intimate expression far to the east, where stones were chosen not for uniformity, but for their unique, whispering forms. The geometric order of Carnac gives way to a more intimate kind of stone conversation high in the Andes. At the fortress of Ollantaytambo, A single wall stands as a testament to a different sort of genius, one that speaks to a profound partnership with a hostile landscape. Here, 6 colossal slabs of pink porphyry, each one weighing as much as 80 tons, form a monumental barrier. Their sheer size is daunting, but the true mystery lies in their journey. These stones were not sourced from the nearby mountainside. They were quarried from a site on the opposite side of a deep valley, requiring the builders to first lower the multi-ton blocks down a steep slope, transport them across the rushing Yorubamba River, and then haul them up the steep incline to their final position. It is a logistical nightmare that makes the simple act of moving them feel like a three-dimensional chess game played with mountains as the board, yet they succeeded. The wall they built is a masterclass in resilience. The stones are fitted together with the same intricate, interlocking precision seen at Sacsayhuamán, creating a structure that has shrugged off centuries of powerful earthquakes. This was not just construction, it was a form of architectural judo, using the landscape's own challenges, the steep slopes and seismic instability, to create a defensive position of unparalleled strength. The exact methods used for the transport remain shrouded in speculation. While archaeologists propose elaborate systems of earthen ramps, rope levers, and vast teams of laborers, the sheer incline and the river crossing stretch these conventional explanations thin. This gap has allowed local myths and more speculative ideas to persist. Some point to oral traditions that, like those at Sacsayhuamán, hint at a knowledge that could soften stone or alter its weight, concepts that modern science cannot yet verify but that speak to a lost understanding of materials. Whether through brute force orchestrated on a grand scale or through a forgotten principle of physics, the result is undeniable. Ollantaytambo exemplifies a recurring theme we see across the globe, a fusion of the natural and the built. The ancients did not seek to conquer their environment with sheer force, but to engage with it, to turn its apparent obstacles into the very foundations of their grandeur. This harmonious relationship finds a quieter, but no less mysterious, expression in a place where stones were not merely fitted together, but were chosen because they already sang. The sea does not only hide temples, it can also disguise roads. Just off the coast of Bimini, in the crystal-clear waters of the Bahamas, lies a formation that looks like a pathway paved by giants. Known as the Bimini Road, it consists of a long line of massive, rectangular limestone blocks, each one roughly uniform in size, laid out in a deliberate, linear pattern that stretches for nearly half a mile across the shallow seafloor. To swim above it is to experience a profound cognitive dissonance, your mind insisting this is a constructed feature, a wall or a causeway, while conventional geology offers a different, simpler story. The official explanation describes it as a natural formation of beak rock, a type of limestone that can fracture along natural bedding planes, creating block-like segments that can settle into surprisingly neat rows over time through tidal action. It is a plausible, earth-bound process. Yet, for many who study the site, that explanation feels incomplete. The blocks exhibit a geometric regularity that seems to defy pure chance, their alignment too straight, their edges too squared for a process we typically associate with random erosion. This is the heart of the mystery, a classic clash between what our eyes perceive as design and what science can comfortably explain as natural phenomenon. If it is natural, it is one of the world's most persuasive optical illusions. If it is not, then we are looking at something extraordinary, a piece of maritime infrastructure from a time when this area was dry land. This possibility inevitably draws connections to one of history's most enduring legends, the lost civilization of Atlantis, said to have sunk beneath the waves in a single cataclysmic event. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this link, the very fact that the site inspires such speculation is telling. It highlights a deep human intuition to find pattern and purpose, especially when confronted with a structure that so perfectly mirrors our own engineering. The implications, if it were man-made, are profound. It would represent a megalithic tradition not of mountains or deserts, but of coastlines and shallow seas, a culture adept at working with the unique challenges and materials of an island environment. This expands the map of potential ancient builders from continents to archipelagos, suggesting sophisticated societies could have thrived in places now submerged. Ultimately, the Bimini Road serves as a powerful metaphor for our search itself. It reminds us that Earth's story is not static. Coastlines change, ice melts, seas rise. What we consider solid ground today was once a different world, and what is now underwater may hold the keys to chapters of human history we have not yet read. This formation, whether a quirk of nature or a sunken artifact, encourages us to look beyond the present shoreline and consider how much of our past may simply be waiting beneath the waves, quietly challenging our assumptions with every tidal cycle. Scattered across the high plateau of Laos, the landscape holds a mystery of a different scale. The Plain of Jars is exactly that, a vast field dotted not with temples or walls, but with thousands of colossal stone vessels, some standing over 10 feet tall and weighing many tons. Carved from solid blocks of sandstone and granite, these jars are not uniform. They vary in height and shape, some cylindrical, others more angular, suggesting they were created and used over a long period by a developing culture. Their presence is both humble and bewildering, for their purpose, while deeply human, remains just out of reach. The most widely accepted theory, supported by archaeological findings, is that they served as part of a ceremonial practice for honoring those who had passed on, perhaps as containers for the physical remains or as markers for memorial sites. Other ideas propose they were used for practical community needs, like storing rainwater or fermenting food and drink for large gatherings. Yet this very simplicity of purpose makes the method of their creation all the more perplexing. The plateau is a mountainous region, and the stone for these jars was quarried from several miles away. How did a society without the wheel or draft animals transport multi-ton blocks of hard rock across such rugged terrain? And once at the site, how did they hollow out the interior of each jar with such precision, using what we assume were simple iron chisels and stone hammers? The sandstone is notoriously difficult to work, and the smooth, consistent interior curves we see on many jars suggest a technique, perhaps involving the use of fire and water to fracture the stone, that we have not fully reconstructed. This site beautifully illustrates a profound truth about ancient ingenuity. The drive to create monumental works was not reserved for gods or kings alone. It was often invested in the objects of daily and spiritual life, in the vessels that held a community's sustenance and its memories. The jars stand as silent, stoic servants, their grand scale devoted to the most fundamental human acts, gathering, preserving, and remembering. This paradox, where immense effort meets simple utility, forces us to expand our definition of what a megalithic structure can be. It is not always a pyramid aiming for the stars. Sometimes it is a jar rooted in the earth, waiting to be filled. The quiet purpose of the stone jars finds a breathtaking echo in faith carved from the living earth. In the highlands of Ethiopia, a sacred city sleeps not on a mountain, but within it. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela are a miracle of subtraction. In the 12th and 13th centuries, artisans did not build upward with brick and mortar. They performed a kind of architectural archaeology, carving directly downward into the volcanic tuff to reveal 11 complete churches from a single, solid block of stone. This is the opposite of conventional construction. It required a vision so precise that the builders had to see the finished cathedral, with all its doors, windows, columns, and vaulted ceilings, trapped inside the unbroken rock, and then remove everything that was not it. The scale of this removal is staggering. To create the largest of them, Bet Medhain Alam, workers excavated an estimated 15,000 cubic meters of stone from around and within a single block to leave behind a free-standing church, one considered the largest monolithic church in the world, its roof now level with the surrounding ground, supported by 36 pillars that were themselves revealed, not placed. The logistical challenge here is one of precision under immense pressure. Every swing of the hammer, every scrape of the chisel was irreversible. There were no second chances, no way to add material back if a critical arch or pillar was weakened. Local tradition attributes this impossible feat to King Lalibela, who, after a journey to Jerusalem, was inspired to create a new Jerusalem in his homeland. Legend says he was aided by angels who worked through the night, a divine explanation for a human achievement that seemed to defy mortal capability. While the historical timeline is clearer here than at many older sites, the practical methods remain elusive. The tools were likely simple iron chisels and hammers, yet the coordination required to orchestrate the excavation of multiple, interconnected subterranean sanctuaries, complete with intricate interior detailing, drainage tunnels to protect against rainwater, and a network of ceremonial passages, speaks to a masterful understanding of engineering, hydrology, and stone itself. Lalibela represents a crucial pivot in our journey. It proves that the drive to shape stone on a monumental scale was not a relic of a lost prehistoric age. This impulse, this marriage of profound spiritual vision with audacious engineering, persisted powerfully into the medieval era. It shows us that the mystery is not always about a forgotten technology, but sometimes about the limitless potential of human focus and belief, a force that could quite literally move mountains by inviting them to become something holy. These walls do not merely stand guard, they grow from the earth itself. At the Bronze Age citadel of Mycenae, the stonework is so colossal it earned a name born of myth, Cyclopean, because later Greeks who saw these ruins could not conceive of human hands moving such blocks and believed only the one-eyed giants of legend, the Cyclopes, were strong enough to be the builders. This is not the refined geometry of Puma Punku, but a raw, muscular architecture of power. The walls are built from massive, irregular limestone boulders, some weighing well over 20 tons, each one a unique shape. Yet they are fitted together in a tight, interlocking polygonal puzzle, without a single drop of mortar binding them. The genius is in this very irregularity, the way each stone's contours are matched to its neighbor, creating a bond so strong it has withstood millennia of earthquakes and sieges. This was defensive architecture raised to an art form, designed to intimidate as much as to protect. The might of this society is crystallized in its main entrance, the Lion Gate. The gateway itself is a staggering feat, framed by monolithic posts and crowned by a single, enormous lintel stone that weighs approximately 20 tons. Above this lintel rests the famous relief sculpture of two lionesses flanking a central column, a symbol of royal power meant to be seen and understood by all who approached. The message was clear: the rulers within commanded forces both natural and supernatural. The construction of these fortifications reveals a society of immense organization. Quarrying, transporting, and fitting multi-ton boulders in this complex jigsaw pattern required more than just large labor crews. It demanded master planners who could visualize the final structure and orchestrate the placement of each uniquely shaped stone. This was a civilization marshaled for both war and grandeur, capable of channeling its resources into creating an indelible stamp of authority upon the landscape. Mycenae bridges a crucial gap in our understanding. It stands squarely at the crossroads of myth and historical reality. The very term Cyclopean is a gift, a direct insight into how later cultures grappled with the technological legacy of their predecessors. When faced with an achievement that defied their own capabilities, they reached for a mythological explanation. This pattern of attributing the inexplicable to gods or giants echoes around the world and across time, a universal human response to the awe of lost knowledge. The walls of Mycenae are therefore a dual testament to the formidable engineering of a Bronze Age kingdom and to the enduring power of these structures to shape not just landscapes, but the very stories we tell about our own past. The raw power of Cyclopean walls gives way to a vision of celestial motion frozen in stone. On India's eastern coast, the Sun Temple of Konark is not merely a building, it is a cosmic machine captured in mid-journey. Conceived in the 13th century, the entire temple is designed as a colossal chariot for the sun god Surya, complete with 12 pairs of intricately carved stone wheels, each over 10 feet in diameter, and pulled by a team of 7 mighty stone horses. This is architecture as allegory, a story of divine passage told on a monumental scale. The foundation alone required moving and positioning massive blocks of condylite, a dense, coarse-grained stone notoriously difficult to work with. Its hardness makes it durable, but for the artisans tasked with carving it, it was a relentless adversary, demanding extraordinary skill and patience to shape. Yet from this stubborn material, they coaxed forth not just structural forms, but an entire universe in miniature. Every surface, every pillar, every wheel spoke is covered in exquisite, deeply detailed sculptures depicting deities, musicians, dancers, animals, and scenes from daily life and mythology. The precision of this stonework, achieved with iron chisels and hammers, is an artistic marvel that rivals the engineering feat of its construction. This temple represents a profound evolution in megalithic ambition, where the goal was no longer just to move mountains of stone, but to make them speak, to dance, to tell an elaborate sacred story. The logistical coordination was immense, involving quarrying, transport, and the synchronized work of thousands of artisans and laborers, all united by a shared devotional vision. Adding to its mystical aura are local legends that speak of the builders using powerful magnets embedded within the stone blocks, creating a magnetic force that helped move the massive components into place. While historians see this as symbolic folklore, it echoes a familiar theme, the attribution of impossible feats to lost or extraordinary knowledge. Beyond its artistry, the temple is a sophisticated astronomical instrument. Its primary alignment ensures the first rays of the rising sun at specific times of the year illuminate the inner sanctum, and the giant stone wheels themselves function as sundials, their spokes casting shadows that mark the hours with remarkable accuracy. Here, engineering, artistry, and astronomy fuse into a single, breathtaking declaration of devotion, proving that the ancient drive to shape stone could reach its most ornate and intellectually refined expression. Granite holds the memory of ambition and its sudden end. In the sun-scorched quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies a monument not to completion, but to a dream interrupted, the unfinished obelisk. Still attached to the bedrock from which it was being born, this colossal shaft of red granite stretches nearly 140 feet, a length that would have made it the heaviest single stone ever quarried by human hands, weighing an estimated 1,200 tons. It is a fossilized moment of supreme effort, offering a clearer window into ancient methods than any finished monument ever could. The evidence is etched directly into the stone. Surrounding the massive form, you can see the precise channels carved by teams of workers wielding nothing harder than dolomite pounders, spherical balls of dolerite stone. They would have sat in rows, swinging these pounders in a relentless rhythm to pulverize the granite along a predetermined line, a process of brute force patience that speaks of coordinated labor on an industrial scale. The obelisk's sheer size reveals the staggering ambition of its patrons, likely intended to proclaim the power of a pharaoh for all eternity. But then the crack appeared. A deep, fatal flaw split through the stone, rendering the entire decades-long project useless in an instant. The reasons are still debated by scholars, Was it a hidden fissure in the granite that finally gave way under its own unimaginable weight? Or was it a catastrophic error in the quarrying technique itself, perhaps removing supporting stone too quickly? We will never know for certain. This moment of failure, however, is profoundly instructive. While we marvel at the pyramids and temples that succeeded, this abandoned giant grounds us in the harsh reality these builders faced every single day. They were pushing their technology, their understanding of materials, to the absolute limit. The unfinished obelisk is a testament to human aspiration, yes, but also to the immense risk, the investment of lives and years that could be shattered by a single, unseen weakness in the stone. It reminds us that for every perfect monument that survived, there may have been countless others that did not, their stories lost to cracks and collapses. This tangible evidence of limitation makes the successes we have seen all the more remarkable, and it shifts our perspective from pure wonder to a deeper respect for the courage it took to attempt such feats in the first place. But the most radical challenge to our timeline is not found in the desert or the sea, but beneath the soil of a lush Indonesian hill. Gunung Padang does not look like a pyramid at first glance. It appears as a series of ancient, weathered terraces ascending a mountainside, stacked with countless columnar stones of volcanic basalt. For generations, it was considered a natural hill with some prehistoric stone arrangements on top, a curiosity, but not a revolution. That changed when a series of controversial geological surveys, using ground-penetrating radar and core drilling, suggested something astonishing. The data indicated that these terraces were not just surface features, but the exposed tip of a massive, deeply buried structure. The core samples pulled from deep within the hill revealed layers of crafted stone and man-made cavities far below the surface, in strata that preliminary dating suggested could be more than 20,000 years old. If these findings are ever validated by the broader scientific community, the implications are not just significant, they are tectonic. It would mean a complex, terraced pyramid was engineered not by an early agricultural society, but by people living in what we call the Paleolithic era, a time we have long imagined as one of nomadic hunter-gatherers with simple stone tools. The construction itself, the careful selection, shaping, and placement of countless volcanic basalt columns into stable, ascending platforms, speaks of a settled, organized community with a shared vision that spanned generations. This directly contradicts the mainstream archaeological model, which places the rise of monumental architecture alongside the development of agriculture and permanent settlements, thousands of years later. The fierce, ongoing debate around Gunung Padang is a microcosm of a much larger conflict. It pits conventional, cautious science, which builds timelines from established, peer-reviewed evidence, against alternative historical theories that are willing to consider data that could shatter existing paradigms. Mainstream archaeologists urge extreme caution, pointing to potential errors in dating techniques and the natural geological processes that can create stone formations that look artificial. Proponents of the older date argue that dismissing such evidence outright is a failure of scientific curiosity. This site, more than any other, pushes at the very boundaries of time itself. It does not ask how something was built, but when, and in doing so, it forces a far more profound question upon us. What if the story of human civilization is not a slow, linear climb from simplicity to complexity, but a series of forgotten chapters of cultures that rose, built wonders, and vanished long before our recorded history even began? Gunung Padang, whether 20,000 years old or 2,000, stands as a powerful symbol of this possibility, a silent, terraced mystery urging us to reconsider the very dawn of human ambition. The stone giants of Gunung Padang ask us to reconsider time itself, but in the rolling hills of southern Spain, another kind of monument speaks of a more intimate relationship with eternity. The dolmens of Antequera are not towers or temples, but houses for the departed, built with a scale that humbles the living. The Menga Dolmen is a corridor of ore, a long passage leading to a burial chamber roofed by a single, staggering capstone. This slab of limestone weighs approximately 180 tons. To put that into perspective, that is heavier than a fully loaded blue whale, lifted and positioned by a Neolithic community over 5,000 years ago. The sheer physicality of this act, moving such a mountain of stone from a quarry several kilometers away without wheels or metal, speaks of a communal will that is almost tangible. This was not the work of a king's decree alone, but of an entire society united in a purpose that transcended any single lifetime. Yet the true genius of Menga is not found in its mass but in its gaze. The entire structure is precisely oriented, not to the rising sun of a solstice, but to a singular natural landmark, the distant Peña de los Enamorados, a mountain whose silhouette resembles a sleeping giant. This choice reveals a profound worldview. For these builders, the sacred landscape was not a backdrop, it was an active participant in the ritual of remembrance. They integrated their architecture directly into the Earth's own poetry, aligning the house of the ancestors with a feature that watched over the valley. Just a short walk away, the Vieira Dolmen offers a different celestial conversation. Its long corridor is perfectly aligned so that during the equinoxes, the rising sun sends a beam of light racing down its length to illuminate the inner chamber. This is astronomy made personal, a calendar of light meant to mark time for those who had passed beyond it. These structures together form a powerful statement. They remind us that the megalithic impulse was often deeply spiritual, a bridge carefully built between the world of the living and the realm of memory and legacy. The enormous effort required to raise these stones was an act of love and reverence, a physical anchor for stories, lineage, and belief. In their silent alignment with mountain and sun, they tell us that for these ancient communities, honoring those who came before was not a solitary act, but one that connected them to the very cosmos, weaving the threads of family, landscape, and the turning heavens into a single, enduring tapestry of stone. Perfection can take many forms, and in the river deltas of Costa Rica, it is found in the shape of a sphere, scattered across the Diquis Delta, as if dropped by a careless giant, are hundreds of stone orbs of bewildering precision. They range from the size of a grapefruit to colossal globes over 2 meters in diameter, the largest weighing as much as 15 tons. They are carved from hard gabbro, limestone, and sandstone, and their surfaces are unnervingly smooth, their curves mathematically true. This is where the mystery becomes a tactile one. Creating a perfect sphere freehand, even with modern steel tools, is a task that demands exceptional skill and constant measurement. To achieve this with nothing but stone hammers and abrasives is a geometric puzzle of the highest order. The artisans would have had to maintain a consistent radius from an imagined central point on all axes while slowly wearing the stone down, a process requiring not just strength but an intuitive grasp of three-dimensional form that feels almost preternatural. The purpose of these enigmatic objects is lost to us. Some researchers propose they were markers of social status, placed near the homes of leaders. Others see them as astronomical tools, their alignments pointing to celestial events. Yet the truth is clouded by their modern history, as many of the spheres were rolled away from their original sites by 20th century agricultural workers, severing their connection to the archaeological landscape forever. This act of displacement adds a poignant layer to their mystery. We are left with beautiful, perfect answers, but we have hopelessly lost the questions they were meant to solve. What we can deduce from their existence, however, is the portrait of a society with remarkable specialization. The creation of these spheres was not a casual pastime. It required dedicated craftsmen supported by a community that valued their unique skill. This pursuit of abstract geometric perfection, for a reason we cannot fathom, stands as one of the most purely artistic and technically baffling expressions of the megalithic world. It is a silent testament to the human drive to impose ideal form upon a stubborn and unyielding material, a drive that would find its most extreme and enduring expression in a place where stones were not just shaped, but made to endure for an eternity under the weight of a mountain. The quest for geometric perfection gives way to a city carved from the very breath of the desert. Petra's rose-red cliffs are not a canvas for stone to be added, but for it to be taken away. Here, the architectural genius is one of profound subtraction. The iconic facade of the treasury, known as Al-Khosneh, is not a building placed against the rock. It is the rock itself, meticulously revealed. To create this multi-story wonder, artisans did not haul blocks into position. They removed thousands upon thousands of tons of solid sandstone from a vertical cliff face, a process of reverse engineering on a staggering scale. The logistical planning alone is a masterwork. Teams had to work from the top down, carving elaborate facades, columns, and interior chambers while suspended on scaffolding, with every strike of the iron chisel being a permanent commitment. There were no second chances, no way to reattach a miscut piece of the mountain. This required not just skilled craftsmen, but visionary engineers who could see the finished temple trapped within the unbroken stone and orchestrate its careful liberation. The precision achieved with such basic tools is breathtaking. The Corinthian capitals are delicately detailed, the pediments are flawlessly proportioned, and the surfaces retain a smoothness that speaks of immense patience and control. Petra represents a brilliant adaptation to environment. The Nabateans did not fight the arid landscape or search for distant quarries. They embraced the mountain itself, using it as both their source material and their protective fortress. The result is a seamless fusion of the natural and the crafted, where the wind-sculpted curves of the canyon meet the disciplined lines of human artistry. This subtractive approach is a different kind of megalithic ambition, one that proves ancient innovation was not a single technique, but a flexible dialogue with the earth. It asks us to expand our definition of construction, to see that sometimes the greatest monuments are not built up, but patiently, reverently carved out. The quiet dedication of a single community can rewrite our understanding of human ambition. On the small Mediterranean island of Gozo, the Giza dot above Gantaja temples rise from the earth, their very name meaning belonging to the giants. Built around 3600 before the Common Era, these are not the ruins of a great empire, but the sacred heart of a small island society. They stand as some of the oldest free-standing stone structures on the planet. Their massive limestone blocks raised a full 1,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza and centuries before the first stones of Stonehenge were set. This timeline alone is a profound statement, proving that the drive to build in monumental scale is far more ancient and widespread than we once believed. The stones themselves are colossal, some weighing over 50 tons, yet they were not imported from distant lands. They were quarried from the island's own soft Globigerina limestone, a material easier to cut than granite but still presenting an immense challenge. The effort to extract, move, and precisely position these blocks required a level of social cohesion and long-term planning that belies the island's modest size. This was not the work of a vast, anonymous labor force commanded by a god-king, but likely the coordinated effort of a close-knit community, generation after generation, united by a shared spiritual vision. Their architectural genius is revealed in the very shape of the spaces they created. To roof their temples, they employed a technique called corbelling, where each successive layer of stone is placed slightly inward from the one below, gradually closing the gap to form a domed ceiling. This is not simple stacking, it is advanced structural thinking, an early understanding of how to distribute weight and create enclosed, awe-inspiring chambers without the need for arches or supporting pillars. The purpose of these spaces feels deeply connected to the rhythms of the cosmos. The temples are carefully aligned with celestial events, their doorways and internal passages designed to capture the light of the rising sun on specific days, perhaps marking solstices or equinoxes. This points to an early, sophisticated development of astronomical observation, woven directly into ritual and community life. Above, Gantaja dismantles a persistent assumption in our study of the ancient world, the idea that monumental architecture is a direct product of continental-scale empires with vast resources to command. Here, on a tiny island, a society achieved architectural greatness through unity, patience, and a profound connection to their land and sky. They built not for conquest or glory, but for meaning, and in doing so, they left a legacy that quietly challenges the very narrative of human progress, asking us to look for greatness not in the size of a territory, but in the depth of a community's purpose. These towers are not solitary sentinels, but a language of stone spoken across an entire island. Scattered over the Italian island of Sardinia stand more than 7,000 Nurag, each one a silent testament to a culture that defined itself through the weight of basalt. Built during the Bronze Age, these are not simple huts, but conical fortress towers constructed from massive, irregular blocks, fitted together without a single drop of mortar. To see one is to see a mountain reshaped by human hands, its dry stone walls defying gravity and time through pure geometric intelligence. The largest complexes, like Su-Nuraxi, reveal a staggering ambition. Here, a central tower, originally soaring perhaps over 60 feet high, is surrounded by a labyrinth of interconnected bastions, courtyards, and smaller towers, all built with the same Cyclopean masonry, where every multi-ton block is locked to its neighbor in a three-dimensional puzzle. The stability of these structures across 3 millennia is not an accident. It is physics carved in stone. The builders possessed an intuitive, masterful understanding of load distribution, angling the walls slightly inward as they rose, carefully selecting each stone's unique shape to transfer weight down through the structure and into the very earth itself. This created monuments that could withstand not just the slow creep of centuries, but the sudden violence of earthquakes. The enduring mystery of the Nurag is not how they stand, but why there are so many. With thousands dotting the landscape, their purpose becomes a fascinating riddle. Were they primarily defensive strongholds, watchtowers for a wary people? The thick walls and strategic positions suggest this. Could they have been the fortified homes of chieftains, symbols of power and community gathering places? The evidence of daily life found within some supports this idea, or did they serve a deeper ceremonial function, acting as sacred sites connecting the people to their gods and ancestors? The truth likely intertwines all three, a blend of practicality, power, and spirituality unique to this island culture. This proliferation is the most telling clue of all. To coordinate the construction of thousands of these monumental towers across Sardinia required more than just technical skill. It demanded a unified cultural identity, a shared vision so powerful that it expressed itself in a single, repeated architectural form for generations. The Nurag did not just occupy the landscape, they became it. They shaped how the people moved, communicated, and saw themselves in the world. This phenomenon shows us that megalithic building was not always about a single, isolated wonder to awe the gods. Sometimes it was the very fabric of a society, the common language through which a whole culture wrote its story into the bones of the land, creating an identity so durable that its stone syllables are still clearly read today, long after the voices of its builders have faded into the wind. 8,000 years before the Common Era, a community decided to move a mountain. The stone tower of Jericho rises not from a later age of empires, but from the very dawn of settled human life. Built from rough, undressed stones quarried from the nearby hills, it lacks the polished geometry of later wonders, yet its significance is monumental. This tower and the massive wall that encircled its town represent humanity's first known experiment in collective, large-scale construction. For a people only just transitioning from a nomadic existence to permanent settlement, the investment was staggering. To quarry, transport, and stack these stones into a tower nearly 30 feet high required a social revolution. It demanded that individuals, once focused solely on day-to-day survival, now contribute their labor to a project whose benefits were shared by the entire community and whose completion would span seasons. The tower's design reveals a sophistication that belies its primitive appearance. Inside its solid core, the builders included a steep, internal staircase, a feature that required careful forethought and engineering to integrate as the walls rose. This was not a haphazard pile of rocks, it was a planned structure with a purpose. While its exact function is debated by archaeologists, whether for defense, flood control, or as a symbolic marker dominating the Jordan Valley, its message is clear. The people of Jericho had begun to think in terms of legacy, of creating a permanent imprint on the world that would outlast any single generation. This proto-megalith stands as a foundational blueprint for the human story. It marks the moment when our ancestors looked at a pile of stones and saw not an obstacle but a possibility, when communal identity became something you could literally build together. The tower's rough-hewn form is a powerful reminder that every polished pyramid, every intricate temple, every soaring cathedral began with this same simple, profound impulse to gather, to shape, and to reach for something greater than ourselves, laying the first stone in an unbroken chain of ambition that would eventually span the globe. The impulse to build in stone for those who have passed on is one of humanity's oldest architectural conversations. In the windswept landscape of Brittany, the cairn of Barnenes speaks this language on a breathtaking scale. Constructed around 4,800 before the Common Era, this is not a single tomb but a stone mountain of memory, a sprawling passage grave built over 2,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt. Its age alone places it among the very first chapters of our monumental story. The cairn is a colossal mound, an artificial hill crafted from layer upon layer of dry stone, incorporating thousands of tons of carefully selected rock. Within this engineered mountain, the builders created not one, but 11 separate burial chambers, each accessible through its own narrow, stone-lined corridor. This design reveals a profound social vision, a place intended not for a single leader, but for an entire community across generations, a collective resting place that wove individual families into the enduring fabric of the group. To stand inside one of these chambers is to witness an early spark of structural genius. The ceilings are not flat slabs, but early examples of corbelled vaulting. The builders stacked stones in concentric rings, each layer placed slightly inward over the one below, gradually closing the gap to form a stable, domed roof. This technique, which we saw millennia later at Giza with above Gantaja, is here in its infancy, an empirical understanding of physics and weight distribution achieved through trial, observation, and a deep, hands-on knowledge of material. They were learning how to make stone defy gravity, not with complex mathematics, but with an intuitive grasp of balance and form. The investment required for such a project is a testament to the values of these early farming communities. Quarrying, transporting, and stacking such a vast quantity of stone without metal tools or animal power represents an immense diversion of energy and labor away from daily survival. This was time and effort gifted to the realm of ritual and remembrance, indicating that honoring ancestors and marking one's place in the landscape was as vital as planting crops or raising livestock. The cairn did not just house physical remains, it anchored stories, lineage, and identity to a specific point on the earth, transforming a place into a permanent touchstone for the living. The precision of its dry stone construction, where each rock was chosen for its fit and locked into place without mortar, has allowed this sanctuary to endure for nearly 7,000 years. It stands today not as a ruin but as a preserved thought, a clear statement from a time before written history. It tells us that the desire to build something lasting, to create a dialogue between the living, the departed, and the land itself, is a fundamental thread in the human story, one that began not with empires, but with communities gathering stones to say, "We were here and this place matters." The communal tombs of Barnenes show us a society already settled, but what if the very first stones were raised by those who still wandered? On a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, a discovery has upended the story of human progress. Göbekli Tepe is not a city, nor a fortress, nor a tomb for the dead. It is a temple complex built over 11,000 years ago, around 9,600 before the Common Era, by people who had not yet invented agriculture. They were hunter-gatherers living in small, mobile bands, yet they achieved something that defies every textbook. They quarried, carved, and erected massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some standing 16 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons, arranging them into vast, deliberate stone circles. The scale alone is staggering, but the artistry is what truly shatters expectations. These pillars are not blank monoliths. They are canvases, intricately carved with a menagerie of powerful animals, foxes, scorpions, vultures, and lions, rendered with a sophistication and symbolic depth that feels centuries ahead of its time. This site does not fit. According to long-held theory, monumental architecture is the end product of a long chain of development. Agriculture leads to surplus. Surplus supports specialization. Specialization allows for grand projects. Göbekli Tepe turns that sequence completely on its head. Here, the grand project came first. The very act of building this sacred place, of gathering hundreds of people from across the region to coordinate this immense labor, may have been the catalyst that forced society to organize, to plan, to communicate on a scale never before attempted. It suggests that the human drive to create meaning, to build something greater than oneself, might be the original spark that ignited civilization, not its final, luxurious result. The logistics are a puzzle wrapped in an enigma. How did nomadic people without draft animals or the wheel extract these multi-ton pillars from a quarry over half a mile away? How did they achieve the precise alignments of the enclosures? And perhaps most hauntingly, why, after centuries of use, did they deliberately bury their entire creation, filling these magnificent circles with thousands of tons of earth, as if sealing away a powerful secret for millennia? Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, profound question mark carved at the very dawn of our story. It forces us to reconsider not just how we built, but why we began to build in the first place, hinting that the roots of our greatest achievements may lie not in practicality, but in a shared need for the sacred, a need powerful enough to move mountains long before we ever thought to plant a seed. Deep beneath the sands of Abydos, a structure defies the very timeline it is meant to occupy. The Osirian, attached to the grand temple of Seti I, feels like an architectural intruder from another age. While the main temple above showcases the precise, beautiful reliefs of the New Kingdom period, descending into the Osirian is like stepping into a different world entirely, a world of raw Cyclopean power. This is not a place of delicate carvings but of overwhelming mass. Its core is built from colossal blocks of red granite and limestone, each one a monolith weighing well over 100 tons. The architectural style is stark and severe, its design bearing a striking, and many argue deliberate, resemblance to the far older Valley Temple of Copper at Giza, a structure millennia its senior. This visual echo is the heart of the controversy. Why would the builders of Seti's time, masters of refined artistry, choose to construct an underground annex in a style that was already ancient history to them? The discrepancy is so profound it has led researchers like the geologist John Anthony West and others to propose a radical idea that the Osirian is not a new kingdom construction at all, but a pre-existing, much older monument that Seti I simply discovered and incorporated into his own temple complex, claiming it as his own. The logistical challenges support this perplexity. Constructing such a massive, subterranean building with limited access points is a feat of engineering that seems unnecessarily difficult for the time it is officially assigned. How did they lower these 100-ton blocks into a deep pit, maneuver them into perfect alignment in cramped, dark conditions, and achieve joints of such fine precision, all while the main temple was being built above? The standard explanations of ramps and levers feel strained when applied to this confined, underground space. The mystery deepens with its purpose. Egyptologists classify it as a symbolic tomb for the god Osiris, a cenotaph meant to represent the mythical burial place of the deity of the afterlife. This religious layer transforms the engineering puzzle into a spiritual one. It suggests the immense physical effort was an act of devotion, an attempt to create a permanent, indestructible conduit to the divine, using stones heavy enough to anchor the myth itself to the earth. The Osirian, therefore, stands as a crucial lesson. It tells us that even within a civilization as meticulously documented as ancient Egypt, there are anomalies that refuse to fit neatly into our chronological boxes. It is a reminder that history is not a single, clear narrative, but a palimpsest where older stories are sometimes buried, literally and figuratively, beneath the later versions, waiting to be read by those who notice the strange, heavy grammar of the stones. The silence of the Osirian's buried stones finds a startling echo on the other side of the world, in a place where the earth itself was hollowed out on an industrial scale. In the quiet countryside of Zhejiang, China, farmers draining a local pond in the 1990s uncovered not mud, but a doorway into a staggering subterranean world. The Longyu caves are not natural caverns. They are 24 vast, hand-carved rooms excavated from solid, fragile siltstone. To step inside is to enter an artificial underworld of breathtaking ambition. The scale is almost impossible to reconcile with hand tools. Each cavern is monumental, some large enough to hold an aircraft hangar, with soaring ceilings supported by massive, evenly spaced pillars that were left standing as the rock around them was painstakingly removed. The walls and ceilings are not rough-hewn, but covered from floor to ceiling in a mesmerizing pattern of parallel chisel marks, each groove cut at a consistent, precise angle of exactly 60 degrees. This is not the work of individual artisans, each using their own technique. It is the signature of a standardized, systematic process, a production line of stone removal operating with machine-like efficiency over 2,000 years ago. The logistical numbers are staggering. The total volume of rock excavated is estimated at nearly 1 million cubic meters. To put that into perspective, that is enough siltstone to fill over 300 Olympic-sized swimming pools, all removed by hand, one hammer and chisel strike at a time, and all without a single historical record, scroll, or folktale mentioning the titanic effort. This complete silence from history is as profound as the caves themselves. Who commanded such a project, and for what possible purpose? The spaces show no signs of habitation, no burial niches, no altars, no storage bins. They are stark, empty, and profoundly geometric. The mystery is compounded by the engineering miracle of their very existence. Siltstone is a relatively soft, layered rock prone to cracking and collapse. To carve out such expansive, unsupported chambers without modern reinforcement or even wooden beams, and to do it with such perfect symmetry and preservation over centuries, implies a masterful understanding of geology and structural stress that we simply do not attribute to the era. The builders must have possessed an intuitive, almost prophetic, knowledge of rock mechanics, knowing exactly where to leave pillars to bear the ceiling's weight and how to shape the walls to distribute pressure. This was architecture in reverse, an act of supreme confidence in knowing what to remove so that what remained would stand forever. The Longyu caves represent a different kind of megalithic wonder, one defined not by mass assembled, but by mass meticulously taken away. They ask us to consider that the greatest monuments might not always reach for the sky, but instead delve into the earth's own darkness, creating vast rooms of purposeful emptiness whose original intention has evaporated, leaving behind only the ghost of a method and the echo of a million hammer strikes in the silent, subterranean dark. Precision can be a language all its own, carved not for size but for meaning. High on the Bolivian Altiplano, where the air is thin and the sky feels vast, the Gate of the Sun stands as a singular statement of intellectual ambition. Fashioned from a single 10-ton block of andesite, its scale is modest compared to the giants we have seen, but its surface holds a universe of intricacy. The central figure is a deity often called the staff god, radiating a powerful presence, surrounded by a flowing procession of 48 winged attendants, each one carved in shallow yet astonishingly crisp low relief. This is not mere decoration, it is a dense tapestry of symbols, a potential codex in stone. Researchers have long studied the patterns, noting the symmetrical arrangements and repetitive motifs, leading many to propose that the gate functions as a sophisticated calendar, marking solar years, lunar cycles, and perhaps even an 18-year astronomical cycle tied to the moon's path. The intellectual achievement here is profound, a fusion of art, astronomy, and mythology into a single, portable stone portal. Yet this very sophistication circles back to the persistent, tactile mystery. How was this done? Andesite is a volcanic rock, notoriously hard and difficult to work. The official narrative speaks of stone hammers and copper chisels, tools that seem utterly inadequate for the task before us. To achieve such fine, consistent detail, to carve shallow, unbroken lines and smooth planes across this unforgiving surface without shattering the stone or leaving ragged, uneven marks, suggests a technique or a tool technology we have not yet identified. The precision of the low-relief carving is so exact it feels less like chiseling and more like a form of stone etching, as if the artisans possessed a method to selectively soften or abrade the surface with a control that defies the primitive toolkit we have assigned to them. The gate, therefore, operates on two levels. It is a magnificent cultural artifact, a testament to the Tiwanaku people's deep observation of the heavens and their desire to fix cosmic order into a permanent form. But it is also a stubborn technical anomaly. It represents the pinnacle of symbolic expression in megalithic form, yes, but it also whispers of a lost finesse, a delicate mastery over hard stone that allowed ideas, not just weight, to be lifted and made eternal. In this single slab, the mystery shifts from the logistics of mass to the enigma of minutiae, proving that sometimes the most compelling questions are not raised by the largest stones, but by the finest lines carved upon them. The iconic heads of Easter Island have always been a partial truth. For generations, their solemn faces were all we knew, gazing from the grassy slopes as if emerging from the earth itself. But the ground held a secret. Recent excavations, guided by new technologies and patient archaeology, have revealed the full story carved in stone. The Moai are not just heads, they are complete, monumental figures with powerful shoulders, detailed torsos, and arms carved in relief, their bodies buried deep in the soil that accumulated over centuries. This revelation transforms the familiar image into something even more profound. It means the ancient Rapa Nui people carved nearly twice as much stone as we ever accounted for, an even greater investment of collective effort and artistry. Some of these buried torsos are adorned with intricate petroglyphs, symbols and designs etched into the hidden stone, a secret language meant not for the living, but perhaps for the earth itself or the ancestors they represented. Why would a society go to such extraordinary lengths to carve these magnificent bodies, only to deliberately bury them? The theories are as layered as the soil. Some researchers suggest it was a practical solution for stability, using the earth itself as a natural support to anchor the towering figures against the island's winds. Others see a powerful symbolic act, a ritual of planting the ancestors into the land, connecting them literally and spiritually to the mana, the life force of the island. This intentional burial blurs the line between monument and mountain, between the crafted and the natural world, in a way that feels deeply intentional. This final discovery in our journey is a perfect metaphor for the entire field. Just when we think we understand the scale of an ancient mystery, the earth reveals another layer, adding complexity instead of providing simple answers. The Moai's hidden bodies remind us that our view of the past is always a work in progress, constantly reshaped by new tools like ground-penetrating radar and by humble, careful digging. Each answer we uncover does not close a book, it opens a new chapter of questions. It underscores that these stone sentinels and all the structures we have explored are not static puzzles waiting to be solved, but dynamic conversations with time, invitations to keep looking, to keep wondering, and to remain humble before the quiet, enduring genius of those who came before us. These 30 stones, scattered across continents and millennia, begin to form a single, intricate mosaic. From the earthquake-dancing walls of Sacsayhuamán to the celestial chariot of Konark, certain patterns emerge with undeniable clarity. The first is a profound understanding of stability. Cultures from the Andes to the Mediterranean independently developed polygonal masonry, that art of fitting irregular, multi-sided stones together without mortar. This was not merely an aesthetic choice, it was a brilliant seismic solution, creating walls that could flex and settle during tremors, locking back into place as the earth grew still. It reveals an intuitive, almost conversational knowledge of geology, a way of building with the land, not just upon it. Equally widespread was a celestial obsession. Whether it is the solstice alignment of Stonehenge, the equinox light beam in the dolmen of Vieira, or the solar wheels of Konark, the ancients repeatedly turned their monuments into stone calendars and observatories. They sought to anchor their sacred spaces, and by extension their communities, to the reliable cycles of the sun, moon, and stars. This drive to map the heavens suggests a universal human need to find order in the cosmos, to mark time not in days, but in generations, connecting human ritual directly to celestial motion. Then there is the most visceral puzzle, the sheer logistics of mass. The story of moving 80-ton stones in Egypt, 1,000-ton blocks in Lebanon, or 100-ton pillars in Turkey is a refrain that echoes around the globe. The absence of evidence for the massive machines, ramps, or lever systems we would consider necessary is a consistent gap in the archaeological record. This shared absence forces a difficult question. Did cultures from the Pacific to the Mediterranean each invent their own, equally effective, and now completely vanished method for making stone weightless? Or does it point toward a fragment of shared, advanced knowledge about materials and physics that has since slipped through the cracks of history, leaving only the colossal results behind? Ultimately, these technical threads are woven together by a deeper psychological cord. The psychological drive behind such staggering effort transcends simple utility. Whether to honor ancestors at Barnenes, commune with gods at Göbekli Tepe, or proclaim royal power at Mycenae, the impulse was the same, a profound need to create a legacy that would outlast flesh and memory. It was an act of faith in the future, a declaration etched in granite that said, "We were here, our beliefs mattered, and our community endures." This universal ambition transforms our view from 30 isolated riddles into a single, continuous human story. We are not looking at a collection of ancient failures to leave behind a manual, but at a global chorus of success in achieving immortality. The true mystery then becomes not just how they built, but why we, with all our technology, still feel the awe of their silent, stone conversation across time. These silent witnesses do not ask for our belief, only our curiosity. From the pyramids piercing the desert sky to the vast, empty halls carved beneath Chinese hills, these 30 structures form a chorus of questions in stone. They stand not as ruins of a forgotten past, but as active challenges to the comfortable narrative of linear human progress. That story tells us we climbed slowly from simple tools to complex machines, but these stones suggest a different possibility, one where profound sophistication appeared in flashes across the globe, achieved through means we still struggle to name. Our ancestors were not primitive beings merely surviving. They were masterful observers, engineers, and artists who possessed a deep, often intuitive, dialogue with their world. Their knowledge may have been built through generations of painstaking trial and error, a cumulative wisdom passed hand to hand, or it may have sprung from forgotten technologies, principles of physics and nature that we have since misplaced, concepts that could make granite soft or multi-ton blocks weightless. The evidence does not force us to choose one answer, but it does demand we expand the question. Perhaps their greatest skill was a different way of seeing, one that perceived the mountain not as an obstacle, but as a partner, that heard the alignment of stars as a language, and that understood stability not through equations, but through the feel of stone fitting stone. We may never fully decode every secret held within these walls. The specific recipes, the chants, the precise lever designs may be lost forever, but the pursuit itself, the act of standing before these wonders and asking how, is what truly enriches us. It stretches our imagination, deepens our respect for human creativity, and celebrates the sheer resilience of the drive to build something that lasts. Let these stones be an invitation. Let them inspire you to look at the old stories of history with a fresh sense of wonder, to gently question the accepted truth written in textbooks. Remember that the past is not a shallow pool we have fully mapped, but an ocean holding depths we have only begun to fathom. Its greatest treasures may still lie buried, not in gold but in understanding. We would love to hear which of these structures captures your imagination most. Does the geometric perfection of Puma Punku intrigue you, or the communal heart of the dolmens of Antequera? Share your thoughts below, and if you are ready to continue questioning the unknown with us, subscribe for the journey ahead.